France has the Eiffel Tower, luxury brands like Louis Vuitton and Chanel, world-class infrastructure, universal healthcare, and a reputation for sophistication and wealth. But here's what the statistics don't tell you. The average French household has significantly less wealth than you'd expect. French workers are among the poorest in Western Europe when you look at actual purchasing power and disposable income. And France's economic model, the one that's supposed to deliver prosperity and equality, is quietly falling apart. France looks rich, Paris looks glamorous, the lifestyle looks enviable. But when you dig into the actual numbers, what people earn, what they keep, what they own, the picture is dramatically different. This isn't about bashing France. This is about understanding the gap between perception and reality. Why a country that appears wealthy is actually struggling economically in ways that don't show up in the glossy travel magazines. This is the economic truth about France and what it reveals about the trade-offs between social programs, taxation, economic growth, and actual wealth creation. Let's start with perception versus reality. The perception. France is the world's 7th largest economy. Paris is a global financial center. French companies like LVMH, L'Oréal, Airbus, Total are multinational giants. France has world-class infrastructure, high-speed trains, excellent roads, modern airports. They have universal health care, free university education, generous paid vacation, strong worker protections. Walk through Paris, Lyon, or Bordeaux, and you see beautiful architecture, thriving cafes, cultural richness. It looks prosperous. The reality: the median French household has about 115,000 euros in net wealth, around $125,000. Compare that to Germany at 230,000 euros, twice as much. Compare it to the United States at $192,000. Even Spain and Italy have comparable or higher median household wealth than France. French workers take home less disposable income than workers in Germany, the Netherlands, the UK, or the Nordic countries after accounting for taxes and cost of living. Home ownership in France is only 58%, one of the lowest in Europe. In Spain, it's 76%. In Italy, 72%. Even in the UK, it's 63%. Most French people rent their entire lives, which means they're not building equity or wealth through property ownership. Savings rates are low. French households save, but compared to Germans, who save aggressively, or even Americans, the actual wealth accumulation is minimal. Unemployment, especially youth unemployment, is chronically high. Youth unemployment in France regularly hovers around 15 to 20%. That's double Germany's rate. An entire generation struggles to enter the job market. So what's going on? How can a country that looks wealthy actually have such modest household wealth and economic outcomes? The answer comes down to 3 factors: taxation, labor market structure, and the economic model France has chosen. France has one of the highest tax burdens in the developed world, and this is the single biggest reason French households don't accumulate wealth. Total tax revenue in France is about 46% of GDP. For comparison, Germany is 39%, the UK is 33%, the United States is 27%. French workers face multiple layers of taxation. Income tax, progressive rates up to 45% for high earners, but even middle-income workers pay substantial income tax. Social Security contributions, or charges sociales. This is the killer. Both employers and employees pay massive Social Security taxes for health care, pensions, unemployment insurance. These contributions can add 20 to 25% on top of your salary before you even see income tax. Here's an example. If your employer pays you 50,000 euros gross salary,
After employer social contributions, which you never see, income tax, and employee social contributions, you might take home 30,000 to 32,000 euros. That's a 36 to 40% reduction. VAT, or value-added tax, is 20% on most goods and services. Every time you buy something, you're paying an additional 20% tax. Wealth taxes. France historically had aggressive wealth taxes. They've been reduced, but property taxes, inheritance taxes, and capital gains taxes are all significant. Add it all up, a middle-class French worker might see 40 to 50% of their earnings go to taxes, direct and indirect. High earners can see 60% plus. Now, the argument is, but you get healthcare, education, pensions, and social services in return. True, but this is the economic reality. High taxes suppress wealth accumulation. If you take home less money, you save less, you invest less, you can't build wealth. You depend on the state for healthcare and retirement, but you never accumulate assets that appreciate: stocks, real estate, businesses. Compare this to Germany. Germans also have high taxes and social benefits, but their tax burden is about 7 percentage points lower than France. That difference, compounded over a lifetime, is hundreds of thousands of euros in accumulated wealth. Or compare to the United States. Lower taxes, but you pay for healthcare and education yourself. American household wealth is much higher because more money stays in private hands to be saved, invested, and compounded. France chose a different model: high taxes, generous benefits, but the trade-off is that households don't get wealthy, they get services instead of wealth. And services don't compound, services don't appreciate, services don't create generational wealth. The second reason France is poorer than you think is that the labor market is structured to prevent wealth creation. France has extremely strong worker protections. This sounds good, and in many ways it is, but it has unintended consequences. It's very difficult to fire workers in France. Once you hire someone on a permanent contract, CDI, contrat à durée indéterminée, firing them is expensive and legally complex. You need documented cause, legal process, severance payments. This makes employers terrified to hire. So instead, they use temporary contracts, CDD, contrat à durée déterminée, which are easier to end, or they just don't hire at all. Result: youth unemployment stays high because companies won't take risks on young, unproven workers. A two-tier labor market emerges. People with permanent contracts have security but can't move easily. People with temporary contracts have no security and can't plan their lives.
Starting a business is difficult. French bureaucracy is legendary. Red tape, regulations, labor laws, taxes. Starting and running a business in France is significantly harder than in Germany, the UK, or the US. And if you do start a business and it succeeds, the taxes on profits are punishing. Corporate tax rates, social contributions, and personal taxes on business income make entrepreneurship less attractive than in other countries. Result: France has lower entrepreneurship rates than comparable economies. Fewer people start businesses, fewer businesses scale, fewer jobs get created, less wealth gets generated. Salaries are compressed. Strong unions and labor laws mean salaries don't vary as much as in other countries. High earners don't earn as much as they would in the US or UK. This reduces incentives for ambition, risk-taking, and skill development. Work culture discourages long hours. The 35-hour work week is legally mandated. Taking August off is normal. While this is great for work-life balance, it also means French workers produce less output per capita than German, American, or even British workers. This isn't about praising overwork, it's about economic reality. If you work fewer hours and productivity is lower, economic output is lower, wages are lower, wealth accumulation is lower. France made a choice: Prioritize leisure and worker protections over wealth creation and economic dynamism. That's a legitimate choice, but it has consequences. The third factor, France's economic growth has been mediocre for decades, and without growth, wealth doesn't increase. France's GDP growth rate averages around 1 to 1.5% annually, compared to United States 2 to 3%, Germany 1.5 to 2%. Even southern European countries often match or exceed France. Why is French growth so low? 1. The state controls too much of the economy. Public spending is 56% of GDP, the highest in Europe. When government controls that much economic activity, private sector dynamism suffers. Resources get allocated politically rather than economically. 2. Rigid labor markets suppress innovation. If companies can't easily hire and fire, they can't adapt quickly to changing markets. They can't experiment with new business models. They stay stuck in old industries. 3. Excessive regulation stifles competition. French bureaucracy protects incumbents and makes it hard for new entrants to disrupt markets. This reduces competition, which reduces innovation, which reduces growth. 4. Brain drain. Talented French workers, especially in tech, finance, and entrepreneurship, leave. They go to London, New York, Berlin, or Dubai, where taxes are lower and opportunities are greater. France educates brilliant people through its elite schools, École Polytechnique, HEC, Sciences Po, and then many of them leave because the French economic environment doesn't reward their skills. 5. Demographic challenges. France has an aging population. The pension system is under massive strain. The ratio of workers to retirees is falling. This means higher taxes on workers to fund retirees, which further suppresses wealth accumulation for young people. The result of all this? France is stuck in a low-growth trap. The economy isn't dynamic enough to generate rising incomes. Households don't accumulate wealth. The state provides services but can't afford to expand them, and the model is financially unsustainable long-term. Here's what makes France's situation particularly precarious. The entire model depends on a social contract that's breaking down. The deal was you pay high taxes, accept lower incomes, and in return you get universal health care, free education, generous pensions, job security, and quality public services. For decades, this worked, sort of. But now, the pension system is collapsing. France just raised the retirement age from 62 to 64 after massive protests, but even that won't fix the funding gap. Pensions are unsustainable with current demographics. Public services are deteriorating. Hospitals are understaffed. Schools are struggling. Infrastructure is aging. Despite high taxes, the quality of services is declining because the model is financially stretched. Unemployment benefits and social programs are being cut. The government can't afford to maintain them at previous levels. Meanwhile, taxes keep going up. French citizens are paying more and getting less. This is why France has seen years of protests, yellow vests, pension reform protests, strikes. People are angry because the deal isn't working anymore. They're paying for a social model that's not delivering what it promised. And wealth inequality is growing despite all the redistribution. The wealthiest French families, who own businesses, invest internationally, and structure their finances to minimize taxes, are doing fine. But the middle class is getting squeezed. High taxes, stagnant wages, rising costs, and deteriorating services. Young people are particularly screwed. They face high youth unemployment, difficulty entering the labor market, low wages when they do find work, high taxes from day one, expensive housing, especially in Paris, and no ability to accumulate wealth, and a pension system that likely won't exist when they retire. This is creating a generation of French people who are poorer than their parents, despite higher education levels. France looks wealthy. Paris looks glamorous. The lifestyle looks enviable, but the economic reality is different.
French households have significantly less wealth than German, American, or even Spanish households. High taxes take 40 to 50% of earnings. A rigid labor market suppresses entrepreneurship and job creation. Economic growth is stagnant, and the social model that justified all this is financially unsustainable and breaking down. France made a choice: prioritize social benefits and worker protections over wealth creation and economic dynamism. That's a legitimate choice, but it has consequences, and those consequences are becoming impossible to ignore. If this changed how you think about France's economy and the trade-offs between social programs and wealth creation, hit subscribe. Drop a comment. Would you rather have France's social benefits but less wealth, or higher earnings with fewer safety nets? And share this with someone who romanticizes the French economic model without understanding the costs. Because understanding that every economic system involves trade-offs, and that those trade-offs have real consequences for wealth, opportunity, and prosperity, is essential to thinking clearly about policy and economics. I'll see you in the next one.